Welcome to Quirky Cooking Chats. I'm your host, Jo Whitten. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to sharing this podcast. It actually was recorded a few months ago and I have been having a break from podcasting, so it's only being released now. But the information in this podcast I hope will be really helpful for you. David Westbrook and his wife Becky are friends of mine who were travelling around Australia at the time. David works for the Farm Owners Academy as a business coach. David coaches farmers to have a successful business with a better work-life balance so that there's not only income coming in, but also plenty of time to spend with the family and doing things you love. I just really love their approach to business, and I found that a lot of the principles that they teach really apply to anyone, whether you have a farm or a business, or whether you're a mum at home with kids, or whether you go to work each day. The principles in this podcast will really help anyone. There's a lot of great information about time organisation, all sorts of things that I found really helpful. So I hope you enjoy it. If you want more information, please scroll down and have a look at the links below. I've shared links to the books that David mentions in the podcast, and I've also shared links to the Farm Owners Academy. So I really think you'll enjoy this. If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to email help@quirkycooking.com.au. Hi everyone, today I have with me David Westbrook, who is from the Farm Owners Academy, also known as Adventure Farmer on Instagram. You guys probably remember hearing about David in my last podcast when I was talking about being curious, and guess what? They turned up at my house. So these guys, David, Becky, and their 3 kids are traveling around Australia, and I would love for you to share with my listeners what you do, because it's really interesting.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for having me, Jo.
No,
And
it's great.
G'day to all of Jo's listeners. So I was a farmer on Kangaroo Island. That's where my wife Becky grew up, and we purchased a farm over there back in 2010. And from there, I met the local vet who founded Farm Owners Academy, which brings a new element to farming, entrepreneurship, I guess, and it changes paradigms, I suppose. So really, which is what I love, and probably the foundation of this podcast a little bit. So that I was lucky enough to meet them and do a 3-year program with Farm Owners Academy, and then at the end they employed me part time, and then after back in 2018 they employed me full time. So I've been there for a couple of years now, nearly 3 years, I think. So. Learned so much around entrepreneurship, mindset, and business, really. And
so the focus of Farm Owners Academy, is it more the business side of farming, but also is it regenerative farming?
Yes, it's really interesting. So it's business basically. So but there's, funnily enough, there's lots of little bits that come by default when you focus on, if you want to run a really successful business, whether it's farming or any business really, you've got to be a successful person first to do that. And we find that a lot of our farmers that already have a successful business or turn their farm into really successful, they'll get to a point and they go, actually, I've done this, I've reached all my goals, but I don't feel happy in myself. I need to go back and work on my health, whether it be mental health or physical health or whatever it is, or people skills, or there's always something else that that people realize that they need. That comes up from being curious, I suppose. So it is business focused, but like regenerative agriculture, because I really connected with it taught me what my core values are, and I was sort of an unconscious thinker, and then this entrepreneurship taught me to be a conscious thinker, and then I realized what my deep down values are, what I love, and a lot of that is around family, and I was a busy farmer that thought I had to be busy and had a probably not an arrogant ego, but an ego as in thought I had to prove myself, to myself, to feel worthy in myself, prove myself to dad, which I didn't even really know until after, because most sons want to prove themselves to their dad, and then also to prove myself to the community as well, that I could be a good farmer. And once I realised that that's not the right way to go, realised
changed your mindset.
Changed my mindset and realised what my values were.
Yeah. Well, you have a very interesting story, and I know my listeners would love to hear it. So can you tell us how you started your farming journey and how it changed and why?
Yeah, absolutely. It is it's an interesting story, and it's taught us so many great lessons, and very, very grateful for that. So I grew up on a cropping farm north of Adelaide in South Australia, and it wasn't really for me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. So met Becky, who's a local Kangaroo Island girl, and we decided we were going to move over there as a builder. Mm-hmm. I was going to moved back to Adelaide, or moved to Adelaide to get my builder's license. I played a bit of football there. And then Dad actually approached me and said, why don't, there's a farm for sale on Kangaroo Island. Would you be interested if I sort of paid the deposit and guaranteed you and Becky into your own farm? And that was a dream come true for us. It was the ultimate. So we went over there, and so 2010, we renovated that farmhouse that we bought. Becky, we were both living in a tent when Becky was, so we gutted the house, and Becky was 38 weeks pregnant, I think, 36 weeks pregnant, living in a tent.
Oh, she's an adventurous girl.
Absolutely. So we were pioneering in a way. And the farm that we bought wasn't at the main farm of the guys that owned it. It was a bit of they had a few farms, and so no one had really lived in it, and it wasn't a homely farm. So it was a beautiful farm, but lots of work to do. So we were sort of pioneered that a little bit, and then we bought another farm a couple of years later, and then moved over there. So I was just got myself in a really busy trap. Grew up with a mindset of work hard. To be successful, you got to work hard and measure yourself on, I don't know, looking good from the outside, really, to be honest. The
busier you are, the more successful you must be.
100%. I used to, so I had 2 farms and a coffee shop.
What?
Right in the middle, like in between my farms. So I had to drive past a coffee shop to go to my other farm.
Sorry. I thought you meant you ran and owned a coffee shop. I was going to say, I didn't hear about this.
Would have been nice.
Yeah.
No. So I used to go there and get a coffee every day. Okay. And I would sort of brag about how busy I was. Yeah. And then once I had met Farm Owners Academy and gone, you know what, that's the wrong mindset. Then I felt guilty if I was busy. I felt really guilty. So 2015, met Farm Owners Academy and really changed what we call a freedom farm. So a farm that makes good money, that's profitable, a farm that is aligned with our values, a farm that gives us time. So time, money, and happiness is what a freedom farm really is. Yep. And we were lucky enough to build that. I was really driven actually to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And then when was it? It was sort of in the early days of that, and Dad rang me and decided he told me that he wanted to take the farm off me. So
you're going to have to tell the in-between story of what changed with your farming. With
the regen side. Yeah, good. Actually, I'll sort of skipped over that bit. So in 2015, Indy's our middle child. She's our daughter, and she was 3 at the time. And she had eczema, which wasn't really bad, as in like it wasn't all over her body, but it was quite bad behind her knees and on tops of her feet. And we, being curious, went and like, what do we need to do? We need to do something about this, because there was she would itch her feet at night time and behind her knees, and then rub her feet on her bedroom walls to soothe them. And then there was it's a bit gruesome, but there was like blood from the wound, from the eczema on her bedroom walls, and that was just.
I think a lot of parents listening would relate, because there's a lot of people that struggle with eczema in their families.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to the GP and didn't get the result that we wanted from our GP, which nothing against them, but we sort of we were curious to what else is out there, and something that Farm Owners Academy taught us was, you don't know what you don't know. Yep. And go and ask questions, go and ask good quality questions from people, and see where that leads you. And that's how we found you, Joe, through a friend on Kangaroo Island who had done a bit of work and listened to your stuff and had your books and recommended that. So we started our sort of gut health journey with Indy, rather than going down the conventional methods, which challenged us big time because we were conventional sort of thinkers. So it was a big paradigm shift, really. Becky came to your retreat up here at
2016 or 17, would it be?
Would have been 16, I reckon. Yeah. And that was a massive game changer for us because it would obviously start to learn a little bit about it and going, okay, what is this? And then for her to come to the GAPS retreat was just perfect. Brought back so many great lessons. And then obviously with your cookbooks and following you, we were able to implement those learnings. And it was like we noticed it within 2 weeks, her eczema cleared up. And we made a pact between the family that if Indy has to eat GAPS, or you follow the GAPS protocols that we all do. And it was just for myself, who thought I was perfectly healthy. I slept better. I had less foggy, I was clear-minded. I had restless leg syndrome, and that cleared up as well instantly. So with the restless leg, that's just sort of tapping my feet. And for me, it was mainly rubbing my feet to get myself to go to sleep. That I just noticed one night that had just disappeared. And the other 2 kids of ours just, they're great kids, but we sensed there was even more of a calmness in them, and they were asking better questions. They were more mature just by eating better food and healing their guts.
Brain food.
Brain food. You are what you eat, isn't it? Yeah, 100%. So that's how we sort of found our way from, I guess, conventional diet to the GAPS diet. And our journey with you.
And then that led you on to change your ideas about other things. So
absolutely. So because we were farming very conventionally and very profit focused, we were sort of eroding our natural capital, so soils, environment. And I can so clearly remember I was driving the tractor down the road between our farms, and I'm just blown away with Indy's eczema sort of turnaround. And it just occurred to me, I'm like, if there's a natural sort of diet or way of eating that we should all be eating, what's the natural way of farming? So I sort of thought I invented regenerative agriculture. Like most people do, and that's sort of how I come across
running through the field going, Eureka!
That's it. And then so I googled right there and then natural farming, and then that's when regenerative agriculture came up, and just a whole another world opened up in front of us, which was so exciting. So then I realized that was when I really connected with my core values, what my core values were. How can I get this animal to live a great life on my farm? How can I get this animal to improve my soils rather than degrade my soils? So it didn't need much, same as GAPS, like it's just a few tweaks in the early days. Because regenerative farming there's all sorts of different methods in regenerative farming. So mine was really to start with basic, because I needed to be profitable. There's no point in having a regenerative farm if you have to sell it.
Yes.
Because you lose money. So it's about how can I do it profitably? So luckily I had Farm Owners Academy behind me, all those lessons, and we're still in that system to balance those two out around profit and regen agriculture.
So it all just meshed nicely.
It did. It was perfect.
How things work sometimes, isn't it?
So
you got to the stage earlier in your story where your dad took the farm back. So what happened then for you guys?
2015 we went from farm owners to an employee of Dad's, which was a little bit hard to swallow. Because of my passion, I suppose. I was so passionate about at my farming, the business itself, and making that successful, and then also the farm and the environment and the ecosystems. So then a little bit of the decision making was out of my control, and Dad was monitoring that from 5-6 hours away.
And was he on board with your ideas with regenerative agriculture?
Not really. We didn't argue, but just saw it differently, very closed-minded versus open-minded farming, I suppose. So very traditional, and
doing
it's got to be done
the same way he's always done it.
So, and there's nothing wrong with that for him, but that just wasn't what I was aligned to. So it wasn't that he was wrong and I was right. You were ready to
change things and move to a different direction.
And I wasn't saying he was wrong, but I was just sort of realised that what his values were working hard and staying the same because that's how you make money, versus me wanting to change things and do it a little bit differently, I suppose, and spend more time with the family.
Yeah. I think when people look at other people who are reducing the busyness in their lives, spending time with the family, having a nap if they need it, you know, going to bed at a decent time, it can look like, well, they're just not working very hard. But I guess it's finding ways to work smarter and work on trying to get you. So is that the kind of things you're really helping people with in your academy coaching?
Yeah. So that's one of our slogans, is work harder, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Have you got any tips for us around that kind of thing? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess
because you know, a lot of it's applicable to any job, really, isn't it?
It is. So what we teach, anyone can. So we only teach farmers, but the lessons that we teach, we're not teaching how to farm. Yes, we're teaching how to run a business.
Exactly.
And the mindset around that.
But go ahead and tell us some things that would help.
Yeah. So for me, it was about time. Was the first one, time management, and I guess my lesson in that, which was incredible to look back on it, and a massive realization for me was I was reactive. I'd walk out the door in the morning because I had a list of jobs. It wasn't even a list. It was like a list in my head of jobs to do. And then there was a moment in the early days of my time with Farm Owners Academy. We were going to Adelaide on the weekend. I can't remember. It was like I had 3 or 4 days until we're going to Adelaide. And in my head, I'm like, how am I going to do it? I've got 10 days worth of work to do. And I was just going, okay, I'm going to grit my teeth and I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go to bed later and I'm going to get this done. And I just thought this is going to be just a slog. And that's how I farmed. Yeah. And then when you farm like that, you're missing so many amazing opportunities because you're on the hamster wheel and you're reactive.
Yes.
And then it just clicked to me. I'm like, Andrew Roberts, who's one of the co-founders of Farm Owners Academy, teaches the stop doing list and the traffic light theory. So this was a huge for me. So I'm like, right, I'm just going to go down the house, going to have a cup of tea. I'm going to just reset. And I'm going to write down all these jobs that are in my head that I think that I have
that's
to
what
get
I
done.
do. I call it the brain dump.
Brain dump, yeah.
It's like write them all down.
Yeah, or the brick, we call it brick theory as well, taking those bricks off your shoulders.
Yep.
So for me, I went, wrote them all down and then traffic lighted them. So red was urgent, had to be done. Mm-hmm. Orange was could be done, but could delegate it.
Yes.
And green was just don't even need to do it this week.
Yeah.
And I had like 3 reds, 2 or 3 oranges, and the rest were green.
Wow.
And I've just gone far out. I just realized that 80% of what I thought I had to do didn't even have to be done until next week or next month.
It completely clutters your mind though, because it's like you're trying to hold on to it all at once, because if you let it go, you might forget it.
Yeah.
And that's what I find, if you write it down, it's just so much easier to go, okay, I can let go of those for the moment, but I won't forget them because they're written down.
Yeah. So there's 2 great books that I read as well, which is Getting Things Done by David Allen and Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy.
I've heard of that one. I haven't read it. Okay.
2 really good books for time management.
All right.
Yeah.
I will put the links below.
Cool. So that really helped me. And then what I learned is that everyone's like, in like my mentors were slow down and you'll make more money. I'm like, how does that, if you work less, how do you make more money?
It's like, how can that work?
Yeah. And then another light bulb for me, I was like literally laying on the couch on the phone and I bought about $100,000 worth of sheep. And
as you do,
as a farmer, you spend a lot of money. But what I realized, if I was out fencing or really, really busy and if I was reactive and been caught in that hamster wheel rather than systemizing my farm, planning well, being proactive, it allowed me the time to actually do some research. And that over a couple of years, it's probably worth $300,000 or $400,000 to me, just because I was able to take the time to do some research and do some really good trades with sheep and cattle. Yeah. And it really set me up, and my benchmarking data analysis reflected all of that. So that was a couple of literally hundreds of thousands of dollars just because I learned how to slow down and manage my time.
Yeah. But it's so true when you're just caught in that urgent mindset. So many things get left and lost along the way that are really important. Yeah. Good lessons. So when you're traveling at the moment, you're stopping at different farms and coaching, is that right?
Yeah, so part of my role in Farm Owners Academy is accountability coach.
Yeah.
So when you join our program, you get allocated a coach, and you do some sort of masterminding with other businesses. And yeah, so I guess part of that is the coach or one of the coaches goes to the farm once in the 3 years. So it's not a big part of our program. And I had quite a few farms to visit up the east coast of Australia. So it's going to be, here we are. So we bought a Farm Owners Academy caravan and 4-wheel drive, and we're traveling Australia, and I think we visited about 48 or 9 farms over the last 6 months. So we left, been on the road for 6 months and really helping getting on farm, understanding the farm and the business and how it works, just asking a lot of questions.
Yes.
Which is great. So for me, especially up in Queensland, like I know how to run a high rainfall sheep and cattle property, but a pumpkin farm or a state farm, like a cattle station or organic beef stations, those sort of things are all new for me. But it was great because it just allowed me to ask questions, and then would sit down and work out a strategy, like a long-term vision for that business. And my goal really was to leave that farm with them, leaving them inspired to go and chase that dream.
Yeah. And have the tools to do it.
Yeah.
Not just running on the hamster wheel.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Really good.
So setting goals is a massive thing as well, whether it's in the kitchen for healthy eating or whatever it might be.
Meal planning or
understand what the end goal is and look back rather than most people look forward, and it's from the current situation and look forward and it's daunting.
Overwhelming. But
look at what would be the dream for you. And another tip is have a default diary. So this sort of default diary is, for example, just in the cooking world, if you want to obviously eat well and prepare and do lots of meal prep, look at your week ahead. Have a weekly diary in front of you, blank one, and go, okay, if I'm going to live the perfect week, I'm going to go from say 8 to 10 a.m. on a Monday. I'm going to cook. Maybe from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, you're going to do a heap of meal prep. So you actually block out parts of your diary, and that's so do your dream one. Because if you do what can you actually handle now, it'll be just chockers.
Yes.
So ideally, like in my default diary, it's got my job, all the bits and pieces, like my admin stuff, when I check emails, when I do my social media, etc., when I do my coaching. And then there's little slots in there, like 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, go for a surf or go play golf or just the absolute perfect week. What is your perfect week? I'd be a great thing for your listeners to go and do.
I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to try that.
Yeah. And then work backwards from that. Yeah.
And then, so when you say work backwards from that, do you mean what can I change right now?
Yeah.
One thing at a time, little by little, working towards that. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
So what I did in the early days, what I did when I got, went from in my head to in a diary, I went into a diary and then I went to Google Calendar.
Yeah.
Because you could take it with you everywhere on your phone. But I would then fill it up 100%. Like Monday would be like completely full of jobs. So if one thing goes wrong, you get a phone call or whatever, something goes wrong, or you see another job to do, all of a sudden you're 110% full, or 120%. So then you're unsatisfied because you get to either you get your work later and get it all done, or nothing's crossed off. So I learned that you've got to actually fill your diary like 70% top. Tomorrow's like 40% full, and then 20%, and then Thursday, Friday might not have anything in it unless you've got a couple of meetings in it, and then you just sort of keep planning a couple of days in front of you.
I think that's a really good tip to do your default. So a week, you would say.
So I actually had like a monthly default diary because every week changed a little bit with what roles I had. So but generally, if you're going to do one, just a week. And what would you absolutely love to do, like if it family time or date night, or just capture the perfect life, your perfect life? If you're living your perfect life, what is it?
Make sure you write in hammock time. That's me. I like my hammock time in the sun.
That's it. And then the other great thing to do on top of that is create a vision board. So if you love your hammock time, find a photo in a magazine of someone laying in a hammock and create a visual board.
Yes.
That captures all your dreams.
Reminds you of the visually. I think so many of us are visual.
Yeah.
And to have that visual reminder of what's important to you is a great idea.
Yeah. And the other big learning too was your thoughts become your reality.
Yep.
So if you can have that in your unconscious mind, that your thoughts become your reality, because if you're busy and on the hamster wheel, your thoughts are always I'm busy, or even thoughts like I never win things, or I'm always unlucky, or I always get a flat tire, or the traffic lights are always red.
Yeah.
It'll happen. But if you can change that mindset to I always get the best park at the shopping centre, or I've got heaps of time, even when you don't, tell yourself that you do. Self-worth is like, I'm proud of myself, I speak well, or people love me, or whatever.
The difference between the old me and the me now, when I was super anxious and intense and stressed all the time, if I had visitors coming over, I would be anxiously, frantically cleaning the house for probably a day. And in my mind, I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to get it all done. I'm so stressed. And by the time they came, I felt sick.
Yeah.
And it was just, the whole thing was a giant stress. But the difference between that and now, like, sure, I cleaned the house before you guys came, but it was like, well, you know what? If it's not perfect, they're not coming to see the house, they're coming to see me. And just knowing that, like, when I had 2 hours left before you came, oh, well, it's okay if I don't get everything done. I mean, it's fine. It looks great. You know, it completely, the way I talk to myself is completely different, and my stress levels are completely different. It's, when you said that, I just thought of that.
Yeah, it's so cool. True. It's such a great place to come from. And farming can be stressful, and lots of things go wrong on a farm. So when I could understand that everything happens for a reason, and whether so many stories on the farm where things go wrong, it's, you know what, it doesn't matter. Like, if I get angry or get frustrated, is that going to change anything? It's going to make it worse. It's going to create something else more frustrating. And
you reckon your health from the stress?
So taking, and we also teach that in Farm Owners Academy, what we call living above the line. So above, lots of your listeners probably heard of the concept, but above the line is like ownership, take ownership, take responsibility, accountability. Below the line is like denial, blame, shame, excuses. So once you take ownership of everything. So the classic example in the farming industry is that a lot of farmers, and I was one of them, their staff would do something wrong, and you blame the staff. You're like, why did I told you go do this and you did that? How did you get that wrong? But as a business owner and a leader, it's like, okay, you've got that wrong. That's my fault because I didn't explain it to you properly. And if they go do it wrong the second time, it's still my fault because I need to improve the system. And if they do it wrong the third time, normally the business owner or the boss goes off their tree. But it's still my fault because I've employed the wrong person. So you're always taking ownership, no matter what it is.
Well, that's a good thing to think about, even for my own business. When things go wrong, it's very easy to completely get overwhelmed and lose it, and that's a stress response, reacting, whereas the way you're talking about is responding thoughtfully, mindfully.
And then also asking, okay, why has this happened? Like, what's caused this to happen? What do I need to change to, I don't know, it might be an illness, or something breaks, or you crash your car, or whatever. It's okay. What have I done? How do I need to change my energy and my positivity to make sure this stuff doesn't happen?
All the root cause analysis too. Same in health. So interesting. Like, if there's anyone out there that is farming and would like to learn about what you guys do, how do they contact you?
So support@farmownersacademy.com is our email. And what else? Website. farmownersacademy.com is a great one. There's so much information on there. One of the best ways is our podcast as well. So it's called The Profitable Farmer. Such a great podcast. We just give away so much great content there, and a lot of our clients are blown away with the free content that we give, and podcasts are a great way to do that. So.
Sounds like I want to start listening to the podcast just for your mindset and business advice for anything, not just farming.
There's so much on there. It's definitely not farming. It's
not just farming. I guess it all interrelates, doesn't it? Because you guys talk about relationships and community and all sorts of things.
Absolutely. Burnout was another great podcast that we did a few months ago.
That sounds like a good one. Been there, done that.
I think we all have done that.
All right. Well, I find it all really fascinating, and I'm really glad that you could come and have a chat and have lunch. We had chicken pot pies
It
and
was absolutely amazing.
what else did we do? We last time they popped by on their way up to the Cape, and we went waterfall hopping. And
Yeah, what did we Dinner Falls?
Dinner Falls
That
at the
was
Mount
incredible.
Hyperpenny Crater. So yeah, you're getting to see the country. That's nice.
We are. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's really good to meet you all, because I've met Becky at the retreat but hadn't met the rest of the family, so it's been great to hang out and get to know you guys. So thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for lunch today.
No, that's all right. Anytime. Next time you back this way, stop by.
We'll be back
Yeah.
for more of those chicken pots. They are incredible.
All right, thank you for all the great tips. I think we'll all benefit from that, and I'll put the links below for you guys, so just scroll down and you can click through and have a look at your Instagram too. Follow your journey around Australia.
Yeah, so we are Adventure Farmer on Instagram. Yeah, if you're doing follow the adventures there a little bit. It's been such a great journey, and just been able to meet so many great people. Probably my biggest lesson from that is just meeting people.
Yep.
And asking those questions.
Learning from other people's experiences.
Yeah,
It's the
absolutely.
best. That's why we do podcasts.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
See ya.